it off the stone.
And the future, I think, of our country is the young people. And it's great tonight to see people of my own age. And of course, I still look in the mirror and I still think I'm 25. And you meet somebody else of your own age, you say, God, they've got older. But time goes so quickly, and we leave it to the younger people, because they're the future. They're the future politicians and clergy and artists and business people. And I would hope the book will get younger people to kind of look at how far we've come. And there is hope for all of us, because they're the people who are going to create a better world. And we do live in a wonderful country in spite of all the doom and gloom.
You were very stubborn as a child.
I still am. The leopard doesn't change its spots. I was, and I remember, and she is here, and I remember Anne Shea's mother saying, she's not Shea, and I can't think of your married name, but me or Anne Shea, and I remember I fell off a bicycle in the middle of the road, and Mrs. Shea chastised me, and I said, I have the same right to be on the road as anyone else. And there's nothing wrong with it. Sometimes you have to be stubborn to get things done.
And the early time in Cumoin, I think, National School, it seemed idyllic. You went to the presentation, and you got sort of a rude awakening about the realities of life, I think, at that point, didn't you?
Well, I suppose I wouldn't want to run down the religious, because there's enough of that going on. But I think when I went to secondary school, I suddenly saw the difference of you had money or you didn't have money. Yeah. And I think in the environment I grew up in, we were all the same. It didn't matter what land or what money or whatever. We all were in there together. But somehow in school you saw the difference. And to me that is kind of quite, it's difficult, because education is about opening up our minds and involving everyone.
Was it always nursing? I mean, was that something that you were passionate about, or did it just come about?
No, I wanted to be a vet. And you see where that lovely girl took a case recently, and fair dues to her and her parents. I wanted to be a vet, but we couldn't afford it. And I do love animals. And I suppose nursing, I think in those days you didn't have much of a choice. Now everyone I meet, they want to go to college, and they don't value an apprenticeship. And so there weren't that many choices. But we did have a great grandaunt, Aunt Jo, and I know some of the relations are here tonight, and she had been a nurse in Daisy Hill, and she was extremely glamorous. And she read novels, and she also smoked. But you're not meant to say that now. But I have a photograph of her, and she really was stunning. And I often wonder if that had an influence on me. But I think maybe it was nursing. There is something special about nursing, and I think we shouldn't lose that. I think we're in danger of losing, what nursing is really about. It's about caring for others.
The nursing was hugely successful. The midwifery was very successful. I mean, you were really on the ladder to a very successful medical career. And then, as one consultant said to you, "Are you mad? You want to what? You want to leave all of this and you want to go to Simon?"
He didn't say it as nicely as that.
I know.
He just said, I had done voluntary work with Voluntary Services International in the slums in Dublin. And any of you who are visiting the museum, if you go on the Lewis into town now, and you have Collins Barracks Museum, but on the right-hand side, there are those flats. And Catherine and myself visited there, and we looked at them. And any imaginative planner in Dublin City Council would have drawn up those flats like they do in Scotland, but they didn't. They're just lying there. You have the facade, and you have the weeds growing through the windows, and all of that. But that, I saw another side of poverty in Dublin. But, I'm rambling already. What did you ask me?
What I asked you about was that you made that decision to move from the comfort of your career.
Yes. So when I had seen Simon then, when I was, Simon wasn't long in existence, and I knew the founder of Simon, and he stayed in my bedsit one time when he had no place to stay. He was a wonderful man, but I had heard of Simon when I was working in the slums there in Benburb Street. So I decided, in the meantime, I had been sent by the board of the hospital to the London hospital to look at intensive care units with the view to coming back, and with the consultant setting up an intensive care unit. And after a while I thought, I'm not the person to be working with machines. And also there were some of the same problems in nursing as there are today. There weren't enough staff, you were depending on agency nurses. And I decided, well, I'm giving it up. So I gave up a permanent pensionable job. And I can still see the consultant, who's nameless. And he came in and he just looked at me through his glasses and said, well, I'll make an appointment for you to see a psychiatrist. And he meant it.
He was serious?
Oh, he was deadly serious. I didn't follow up on the appointment, but he meant it. And it was an interesting experience, because I think anyone who does anything different, anyone who questions what's going on in society, anyone who lives differently, you are somehow seen as there is something wrong with you, rather than, well, you're different and we all make up the jigsaw of the word.
One thing I didn't get a chance to ask you this morning, and I'm intrigued at this, did you ever think to yourself, I got it wrong, you know?
Never.
Never.
But once, I can tell you what happened. Afterwards then, when we set up Trust, which is now the Leahy Trust, I remember one morning, it was 1982, I think, and I was walking into work and I said, dear God, will you give me some sign I'm to continue? So I must have been feeling, you know, what am I at? And I went out to Kappa Hospital to visit someone, and I actually think it might have been La, you know, La, who's the librarian here, I'm not sure, because I used to visit La there, but I'm not sure was I visiting her. And when I got off the bus, they used to have conductors in those days, and we're looking for a driver these days. But when I got off, he said to me, would you just watch that woman there? There was a little old woman. She was dressed in black, and she had a little child who had problems with her, and she was carrying a big case. And I, of course, I know all, was saying to her, now just watch where you're going. Have you some place to stay? And if you don't, go up to the Legion Mary Hostel and they'll give you a bed. And with that, somebody jumped out over a ditch and put his arms around me and nearly choked me and took my bag. But I had enough energy to shout after him and say, look, I know people who've been in prison. And anyway, to make a long story short, I went down to the guards and well, I didn't get the kind of reception you might expect to get. So I went off into town. I got a young journalist to put something in the evening press, which is sadly with us no longer. And the next day, my bag was returned with everything in it. And when I opened it, inside the diary, all I had in it, I had scissors and I had photographs of people and I had bits and pieces. And inside the diary, with the red pen, was written, sorry for the trouble. And it's in the book. And I felt that was a sign to,
for you to continue on. There's nothing warm and fluffy about the stories, particularly with the people that you help and the people you deal with on a daily basis. I mean, you deal with abuse, you deal with violence, you deal with, as a friend of mine, Mick Coffey, used to call them broken people.
And they are broken people, and any one of us could end up homeless. You know, people think, and I know there is a difference between people who are homeless because of rent arrears, not enough accommodation.
And that's a very important distinction, isn't it?
It is,
yes.
And I think nowadays the whole conversation, and rightly so, there's a huge problem about that, but we're inclined to forget them, the people who traditionally became homeless. People, we all know in every village and in every town in Ireland, in every country, you have people who just don't fit in for some reason or another. And they're the kind of people we used to meet in the early days, and a lot of the people were people out of the institutions. Yeah. And they never spoke about the institutions, they drank a lot out the pain. But they were also people, there wasn't the same type of violence that's out there now. There is terrible violence, and an awful lot of it is drug related. And I mean, we had a man who came in and he didn't get what we couldn't meet his needs, and he said he would come in the next day with a gun. And we're very lucky, we're kind of between Pierce Street and Kevin Street, and the guards know us. And they are very helpful if we ring them and say, look, would you just ask them that they move? There's no point in wasting your money taking them to court. But it is very violent out there. There is an awful lot of terrible behaviour, and that's why some people become homeless in the first place. So it's not easy. It's really about building up relationships with people. And some people, it's very hard to build a relationship with. And the only person they might have a relationship with would be the little shop owner on the corner. And they're dying out too very quickly. You know, where there was one man we knew for years who used to go in to buy one rock bun every day. But that rock bun was very important because it meant he could have a conversation with someone. You know, it's... and
however difficult these people were, and whatever the idiosyncrasies were, you still treated them as human beings, equal human beings, and again, that was hugely important.
And we still do, and we're very, we have our charity is registered, we comply with all the legislation. I have wonderful people working with me, and we have a wonderful board of directors, and nobody could do it on their own. But I think nursing probably helped me, because you look at things in a professional way, and you can't change people unless they want to change themselves. But I think if you can accept people in all their brokenness and their pain, and we come across you can understand how some people are so difficult, because some people have had terrible, terrible lives. And I often think when I see a group like this, none of us asked to be born. And how lucky we all are that we had great parents and a great community to grow up in. So you never know what's happening. And people who come up with glib answers, and you get it all the time. And why don't they work? And why don't they this? And why don't they that? It's not as simple as people think.
Their names are strewn throughout the book as well. There's Luke and Christopher and John and Mary. And the book is as much part of them as well, isn't it, as your own story. And
the title of the book, that came from, there was a man, Tony Keely. Tony, anyone who's in Dublin, they might have seen him. He used to be down around Westland Road. He was a real charmer. And he had a very troubled life, and he was in very poor health. And one night he was sleeping down in a basement down Westland Road, and somebody set him a light, and he was taken to hospital. He walked out of hospital, and the next day he came into us, and we removed his shirt, and all his back was burnt, and he died not too long afterwards. But when he died, somebody put his poems together. And one of his poems, the title of the book comes from one of his poems. And the interesting thing is, Tony is buried, we have a plot in Glasnevin, and the person who was instrumental in getting us that plot was our own neighbours, Mervyn Caldwell from Fethard. Mervyn is second in command in Glasnevin, and we got a plot there, and he's buried in that plot. But the title of the book comes from that. But there are different stories throughout the book, and they're all real people with real lives. And like Jimmy, there's a picture of him. Many of you might have met Jimmy in Thurles. But Jimmy he was reared in the tenements in Dublin. He was a great soccer player. If he got the support, he could have been a Roy Keane or something if he got the support. But anyway, his life, he didn't get where maybe he could have. But Jimmy, every time the Dubs were playing, he got drunk and was arrested. If they won, he got drunk and was arrested if they didn't win. And there's a picture of him, and his last skipper was under the stand in Glenmalure Park, where Rovers played. And on it you could see his rosary beads over a holy picture. And, all of them have stories that I think all of us would find difficult.
I was particularly struck by his words, and it really sums up a lot of the broken view. He said, "Today I spoke to no one, and no one spoke to me. Am I dead?"
That was one of Tony's poems. And if you stop and listen to it, sometimes, and I have to stop myself and say, I remember saying once to Paddy, a man I worked with, who was also dead, who was wonderful, and I said to him, I wish I could get in off O'Connell Street and somebody doesn't stop me. And he said, always remember, Alice, there are so many people on that street who have no one to speak to. And it's so true. And I think that's where small communities, and this is something I learned from my growing up, you don't ignore older people, you don't ignore people who've been in hospital, you don't ignore people who are just talking to themselves. That it's, and I would hope that the book and the stories will encourage others to do the same.
And I think it will indeed. Deputy Helen Kelly is with us. We were chatting outside behind your back, and we came to the conclusion that you're a tough cookie. And it does bring up the whole point that you didn't accept government money, and you had a very good reason why.
Now, in the early days, we did get a grant from the Eastern Health Board. We don't take any government money now, and we're very lucky. People are very good to us. Our accounts are audited every year. Everything is done according to the book. But I would like to say, I don't know if Alan is the only. We're not aligned to any political party or any religious denomination. We're not. But I must say, when I never met Alan, I know he's from. Tipperary now is one county, is it? But I know he's from the northern end. But when he was minister, he did come into us a few times. And the other thing he did was, it was the first time I saw a minister getting all kinds of people around homelessness together. And now, and even though I think Owen Murphy, he has visited us, Owen Murphy, I think he's learning from you, Alan, and he has visited us, I think he has a terrible job. But now they've gone back to, when they're talking about homelessness, they are only dealing with agencies, many of them funded by the state to do the job of the state, and they're not listening to other groups who have a say in the lives of people. And I think that's a shame. I think there's a big weakness there.
In 1975, you were, dare I say, naive enough to think 3 years, you'd sort it out in 3 years.
Oh, we thought we'd have sorted out in a year. That we'd have homelessness solved and everything would be fine. And there are young people out there, and Alan, can I say, there were ministers too who were saying they'd have homelessness solved by year so-and-so. And the first thing Owen Murphy is in my constituency, and I met him one day and I said, the one thing you can't do, or shouldn't do, is say you'll solve homelessness by 2010, because I said you won't. And if you could accept that fact and move, think of what else you can do rather than coming out of the sandbox.
And is it fair to say, Alice, that there is an element of homelessness that will never be sorted out because there will always be broken people?
And there will. And sure, we have more and more people. I was on a platform with you in my class, which was wonderful, on suicide. And you can see there are more, where there's more talk now about mental illness and all of that. But often what's missing is the human contact with people. And I think we're in great danger of forgetting the kind of people who aren't going to be successful. And if we forget about those people, they're the people who are going to be found out under the bushes. They're the people who are going to be totally ignored and misunderstood. And our services, I think, with all the emphasis on success and outcomes, we are likely to leave more people aside. And that could be people living on their own, or people in hard times. It's not always about money. People who are cut off. I think we're in great danger of forgetting a whole lot of people. And I think our political system has to start looking out and listening to people who are saying that kind of thing too.
Are you religious?
No, but I have faith. When I say religion, when you say you're religious, I always think it means you're going to the church every day and you're doing this and you're that. I'm not that kind of person. But I do have faith. I do believe there is a higher power. I don't know what it is. I do believe, and if I didn't believe, I think I am constantly amazed at the wonder of how things happen. I mean, look at me here tonight. Did I ever think growing up you'd be sitting here with a whole lot of people who came to hear what I have to say, and just an ordinary individual here, but I've met the most amazing people along the way. Just thought today, I've met 5 of our presidents through our work. I met President Childers when he opened the intensive care unit. I met Paddy Hillary when he opened a place in Simon. I met Mary Robinson when she was senior counsel and we were working on home assistance. Met Mary McAlee several times, and of course I've met Michael D, and I hope I'll meet him again. But I think life is, I think if you look outside the box, and I think an awful lot of professional people too, and people who are under terrible pressure in the work situation, because it's not easy for anyone. But I think if you look outside the box, you get support from the most amazing people. I mean, I meet millionaires, people with nothing, people from all religious groups, all political persuasion, and every day something good happens.
I love your daily prayer. If you don't mind, I'll share it with people. It says, "Dear God, today is the day that you have made, and I'm grateful to be part of it."
Yeah, I do. I say that on my way into work, and people might think I'm talking to myself, and I am half the time. But I do think we need to, even today now with Catherine, we had to go and meet someone this afternoon, and we were driving along country roads, and you're looking at the trees and the mountains. I never, what is it, I get confused with the mountains, but the one I really love, of course, is Slievenamon. And you look at the cattle out there, and you look at the sheep and the machinery. And I don't think we give ourselves enough time to look at kind of the wonder. And in the city you have it too, in the parks, the canal and all of that. So, I mean, I do believe in, I don't use the term mindfulness, but I do believe, and I learned this in school from Mrs. Ryan, Jimmy Ryan's mother. She used to get us to sit down. Now, a lot of people would disagree with me, but I thought she was telling us to sit down and just listen to our own breathing and think. And I still believe that, but an awful lot of people don't know she meant different.
Well, if you purchase the book tonight, or you're about to do so over the next days and weeks, you're in for an absolute treat. And I just want to say on behalf of the people of Tipperary, we are immensely proud of you and the work that you've done, and we think you're terrific. Alice Leahy, ladies and gentlemen.